Wow. The Washington Commanders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have given us the first truly good game of these 2024 season playoffs. And I think that it is very fair to say that Jayden Daniels is the best. I put NFL playoff quarterback. Why don't we put NFC? I think that's a little mistake under me. Only 3 rookies had won road playoff games. Jayden Daniels becomes the 4th rookie in NFL history to win a road playoff game. I was getting that ready very quickly, so the text title underneath me wasn't what it should have been. But now we have it. The Commanders and the Buccaneers. The first game that was decided by less than one possession. And Jayden Daniels down the stretch made some awesome throws, showed excellent composure, and then he lunged for that first down that essentially sealed the game for the Washington Commanders. It set it up for Zane Gonzalez, the former 49ers kicker. Remember when Jake Moody was hurt early in his rookie year? The 49ers had another kicker on the roster. They actually had picked Zane Gonzalez up in a trade with the Carolina Panthers. Gonzalez ended up being cut. Moody, because the 49ers used the 3rd-round draft pick on him, was their kicker for that season. Zane Gonzalez has resurfaced with Washington. He's made some big kicks with them, including one off the upright that bounced in to win the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today. Wow. What a game. Anyway, Jayden Daniels, you know the hype that CJ Stroud was getting last season, and he won a playoff game against Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns. It was a blowout. I think that the Houston Texans had that Cleveland team absolutely overmatched. Stroud got a lot of hype last year, but it was a number 15 QBR year. People don't realize that Stroud wasn't a top 7, top 8 guy last year. He was having a nice rookie year. He won a big playoff game for Houston. The hype that he was getting, that level, I think that Jayden Daniels deserves a whole heck of a lot more. And he isn't getting it. I think he's very quietly put up this awesome season, but there's even one advanced metric. It's wins above replacement WAR that has Jayden Daniels as the top performer in all of football, like ahead of Allen, ahead of Mahomes, ahead of Lamar Jackson. I mean, if any advanced metric has you at the very top, it's worth paying attention to. And this guy's a rookie. He is the first rookie quarterback since Russell Wilson in 2012 to win a playoff game on the road. The rookie quarterbacks with playoff wins on the road are Wilson in 2012. I believe that was actually at Washington, if I remember correctly, with the Seattle Seahawks. I believe that was the game where Richard Sherman and Trent Williams got into it after the football game. The quarterback prior to that was Mark Sanchez. He did it twice with the New York Jets in 2009. Joe Flacco did it twice in 2008 with the Baltimore Ravens. Speaking of Flacco played against CJ Stroud last year. Just shows you he's been around forever. If he was winning playoff games as a rookie in 2008, and then he was playing and losing playoff games to rookie CJ Stroud in 2024, the 2023 season, that really is an unbelievable stat. And then Pat Hayden, who went on to become the athletic director of USC for a little bit, he did it for the Rams in 1976. And yes, Mike confirms that Russell Wilson did it against RG3, and that was a game where Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator and Mike Shanahan was the head coach. It was Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, and the Seattle Seahawks alongside Richard Sherman playing against Trent Williams and the Shanahans in Washington. That was the last time prior to this game that a rookie quarterback had won a road playoff contest. So that brought things full circle. I also thought that this, for the 49ers fans watching, this game brought the Brock Purdy-Baker Mayfield duel full circle. Because what Jayden Daniels did in this game, it took a lot to win a duel with the moxie of Baker Mayfield on the other side. Baker has been playing really, really good football. Let's just open this up by showing where these teams performed over the course of the regular season. Offensive EPA is on the x-axis. Defensive EPA is on the y-axis. Tampa Bay had a really good offense. It was right there with Washington's. You can see both of their logos on the right side. The defenses weren't great, which is why we expected both teams to at least reach the 20s. They did. The final score was 23-20. But Baker Mayfield, he was playing his butt off. Obviously, so was Jayden Daniels. Mayfield was making plays. Daniels was making plays. I thought that more mistakes, procedural mistakes, came on the Tampa Bay side, which just underscores how effective Jayden Daniels was in this football game. I mean, the fact that he was able to go on the road as a rookie and deliver such a clean game, right? I mean, crowd roaring. They're in Tampa. That's the most fired up that I've seen that stadium since last year when they played the Eagles in the postseason. We've seen rookie quarterbacks in the past, obviously, melt completely in such scenarios. We've seen rookie quarterbacks show some good stuff early in the game, but then just be overrun by the end of it as the pressure ratcheted up. I think we saw that with Bo Nix today playing the Buffalo Bills, and I think the Buffalo Bills are obviously a better opponent than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But again, Tampa Bay had been playing really, really good football entering this game. Ever since Mike Evans returned in Week 12, they were one of the most efficient teams in football. So the fact that we saw absolutely none of that from Jayden Daniels, and then we can combine it with what he was able to do over the course of the regular season, just awesome, awesome stuff. This is the wins above replacement for Daniels over the course of the regular season. And then we can look at the QBR. If we flip this to regular season, Jayden here is number 4 in QBR. He's behind only Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. Ahead of Jordan Love, who again had a good regular season, but we saw the limitations of Jordan Love. We've seen them 2 straight years in the postseason. We saw that today, and the Packers lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. Ahead of Goff, ahead of Brock Purdy, who we were just talking about, ahead of Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. Baker Mayfield down at number 13. Tomorrow we get to see Sam Darnold against Matthew Stafford, number 12 against number 14. That game is going to be happening in Arizona. So Daniels putting together an awesome, awesome resume for the Washington Commanders. And what a turnaround. Like Adam Peters, the 49ers personnel executive, who is now the GM of Washington. I mean, he inherited a franchise that was having a lot of trouble showing that it was a competent franchise year over year prior to this new leadership. Adam Peters shows up, and obviously Jayden Daniels is the pick. He's the rookie. He's guiding that team. But other big signings for this football team have really rounded things out. The one that, is an ageless signing on the defensive end is Bobby Wagner, the linebacker. So the top graded linebackers in NFL, Zach Bond of the Eagles, he did a really, really good job this year. Almost came out of nowhere to deliver the highest grade of any linebacker in the NFL. Fred Warner was up there in the top 3, even though he's playing on a broken ankle for most of this season. And Bobby Wagner, I mean, there have been about 3 or 4 times when I thought that Bobby Wagner was aging out of the NFL. He's 34 years old now. He's going to be 35 next season, and he's still playing really solid football. He's not great in coverage anymore, but the veteran leadership that he's brought that Washington defense, which also obviously has Jonathan Allen, and I mean, they're really good on the interior pass rush. So what Washington has been able to do to pair that already strong interior pass rush with the Bobby Wagner, Mike linebacker leadership effect in the middle of the defense has really been remarkable. And they're playing well in the secondary. They obviously gave up a little bit of something to Baker Mayfield today, but that Tampa Bay offense has been playing really well over the past few weeks. And Washington's defense has been incrementally improving. I mean, at the start of this 2024 season, the Washington defense, when I put up my chart and we do things in the top right corner, in the bottom left, and we have the XY chart, the Washington team was in the bottom right corner. Jayden Daniels was hot to begin this season. So the Washington had been at the right and amongst the top 5 teams wire to wire. That's how impressive Jayden Daniels has been. But the Commanders, with their defense, they were way down here. It was almost comical at the start of the year in this bottom right corner. So the defense has improved over the course of the season, and they've got a defensive head coach in Dan Quinn. And it's improved to the point where they are able to hold a top 5 offense today with Mike Evans back. He's been back since November 24th. They're able to hold that top 5 offense in good conditions to just 20 points. Now, Tampa Bay beat themselves a couple times, but Washington still had to do a lot of good stuff in this football game. They had to hold up in the red zone. They didn't make a few plays on the football. They have the interior pass rush to give anybody trouble. With a quarterback like Jayden Daniels paired with just an average defense, maybe not necessarily big noise this year as they move forward, but I think that this is a team under Adam Peters that could make a lot of big noise moving into the future. We have the spray chart from Jayden Daniels. Let's get this up on the screen. This is from NFL Next Gen Stats. Mike just sent this to me. This is going to be really good stuff. I have to save this first. And then we get this up on the screen. There you go. Check it out. So Daniels today, 24-35, plus 6.6 is a good completion percentage over expectation. As I said, he took care of the football, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. On the other side, the issue with Baker Mayfield were a couple of those procedural errors. I don't know if they were his fault or not, but the Tampa Bay offense as a whole is going to have to own that. There was a fumble deep in their own territory, which seemed like it was a botched timing on a jet sweep or a fake jet sweep. And then they had a chance later in the game to convert on the run on a 3rd down, but botched timing, probably the center's fault, led to Tampa Bay having to settle for a field goal. On the game, Baker Mayfield also didn't throw an interception. He was 15 of 18. He was wildly efficient, a 146.5 rating. But Jayden Daniels was just a little bit better. Mayfield also ran for 23 yards in this game. The whole theme of this weekend, and 49ers fans will appreciate this, is it turned into a Brock Purdy appreciation weekend, even though he didn't play. Brock Purdy would have allowed the Los Angeles Chargers to come a lot closer at the very least. I think they would have won the game had they had Purdy against the Texans. And he would have made the Packers look a whole lot better than they did with Jordan Love against the Philadelphia Eagles. But just the sheer fact that quarterbacks who are coordinated based on their physical measurements alone, and it's really unfair to other quarterbacks that Justin Herbert and Jordan Love are so universally praised on social media, despite the fact that their list of accomplishments is not really long at all. Just the fact that they looked so bad this weekend, 7 interceptions between them, I think should have underscored appreciation for a quarterback like Brock Purdy, who doesn't have the same measurables as them, at least as far as height and weight is concerned, but who's accomplished a whole lot more at the NFL. And the NFL is a meritocracy. So you're judged by what you actually achieve. And since Brock Purdy has achieved more than Justin Herbert and has achieved more than Jordan Love, both in the win column and statistically throughout any advanced stat that you look at, anything that's relevant, he is the better player than Justin Herbert and Jordan Love. And I think that this is a touchy conversation right now because Brock Purdy is about to sign a contract, but it's not really a debatable thing. He is better than those players. He's going to sign a big contract, and anybody trying to make a point of debate about the money that he's going to get is just creating a fake narrative that doesn't actually exist amongst football people. But anyway, the Purdy narrative and relation to all this, despite the fact that he didn't play this weekend, carried over into today's game because Baker Mayfield also played really damn well. But it took this from Jayden Daniels to beat that 15 of 18 performance that Baker Mayfield tossed out there. So I immediately remembered that game on November 10th in Tampa Bay where Brock Purdy and Baker Mayfield just went at it. It was one of the most underrated quarterback duels of this 2024 season. And ultimately, Mayfield made play after play. We have to note that he didn't have Mike Evans in that game. He didn't have Chris Godwin in that game. He didn't have Godwin today either, but Mike Evans has been back, and he made Tampa Bay a really good team down the stretch. But even with a beleaguered team, Mayfield made some jaw-dropping plays, including the one where Bosa couldn't bring him down. But then Purdy always had an answer on the other end. Purdy threw that one to Christian McCaffrey as he was getting lit up by the blitz. They beat Levante David. Remember the rainbow pass? Then Brock Purdy scrambled out toward the near side, off schedule. Perfect throw to George Kittle in the corner of the end zone. Then Baker Mayfield came back and was awesome in his own right on that drive to tie the game with a field goal. But it was Purdy who had Jennings and had Pearsall, and then Jennings again to set up the game-winning field goal. Jake Moody actually made that one after missing 3 other field goals. So the point is that Baker Mayfield was excellent, the one game that I covered of his in person this year in Tampa Bay, and it took an epic performance from Brock Purdy to outduel him. And I thought that by and large, Baker Mayfield was really good today, and it took an absolutely epic performance from Jayden Daniels to outperform him. So this was all fantastic, fantastic stuff. And I'm really looking forward to what happens next. We've got a little bit of an updated schedule for next week. Let's take a look at this. Saturday, January 18th, the AFC games are set in the National Football League. Houston at Kansas City. That's going to be at, I believe all times are Eastern, right? Yeah, all times are Eastern. 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. And then Washington is going to be at Detroit. That's going to be at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's next Saturday. So Houston at Kansas City, Washington at Detroit. We're going to get to see Jayden Daniels and this Washington Commanders offense play a beleaguered Detroit Lions defense. That's going to be really interesting. And, here's my proclamation that Jayden Daniels is the best NFC playoff QB. I don't think he has the best NFC playoff team. I think that might actually belong to the Philadelphia Eagles, not to the Detroit Lions either, based on the injuries. But big test because Jared Goff has been having a nice year as well. So we're going to see Daniels and Goff on opposite sides next week. Then on Sunday, it's either going to be the Vikings or the Rams at Philadelphia. So the winner of tomorrow night's game is going to travel across country to play the Eagles. What's the spread tomorrow night? That game is going to be in Arizona, so it's being played at a neutral site. Minnesota favored by 2.5 points. So if that holds up, if Sam Darnold can get it done against Matthew Stafford, the Vikings are going to head across country to face the Eagles, and it's going to be Sam Darnold against Jalen Hurts. That should be fun. Or it could be Matthew Stafford against Jalen Hurts. Either way will be fun. And then the Sunday 3:30 game is going to be Baltimore at Buffalo. So that's going to be the last game of the weekend. That is going to be must-see TV. That is the MVP Bowl between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. So only 3 rookie QBs that won a road playoff game, and then we saw Jayden Daniels, who, by the way, Diami Brown, awesome. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, awesome. That one over the head catch, I can't even say over the shoulder. It was like right over his head in the first half was great. Let me pull up the numbers for some of these guys today. McLaurin, 7 for 89. Diami Brown, 5 for 89. So they both had 89 yards. Austin Eckler is a nice glue piece. He seems to be an ageless one as well. Not much of a rushing game on the ground, though, which makes what Jayden Daniels did all the more impressive. Can't wait to see Washington play the Detroit Lions next week. Recapping a little bit of what happened today. I was talking about the age of the running back. Well, that wasn't really the case with the winners today. We did see Bucky Irving play a really good game, I thought, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they just didn't have the ball last. And Bucky Irving couldn't control the game at the end because Jayden Daniels controlled it instead. 77 yards, 4.5 per carry. I really like Bucky Irving, the product out of Oregon. Fast, explosive player. He gave the 49ers some trouble earlier this year. But I talk about the age of the running back because, between Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, especially those two guys. Those guys are absolute superstars. But a lot of running backs changed teams over the course of the past season. And the teams that they have joined, and this goes back to Christian McCaffrey changing teams in 2022, but the new teams have benefited so much from these star running backs that you could see this is such an important position. These are game-changing type of players. Whoever was trying to say that the running back position is irrelevant, that you could plug in any undrafted free agent and see comparable results, well, they obviously haven't seen Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, or Saquon Barkley play. And that's just the start of the list. How about Josh Jacobs today? I know he was on the losing team. He also changed teams over this past offseason, but he was the only reason that the Packers were afloat. Because that earlier game, Jordan Love was bad, but Jalen Hurts did what he needed to win. But I can't come out of the NFC games today saying that somebody like Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the conference that's still alive. I have to say it's Jayden Daniels based on all the numbers and based on the performance today, which was just awesome. My question, though, is I think still answered in the affirmative. I still think that Philly is the NFC's best team. Detroit fans aren't going to be happy about that, but I do think that the sliding defense that we saw from Detroit all the way up until that Vikings game, hey, if they can replicate what they did against the Vikings, if Aaron Glenn can dial up more blitzes to confuse everybody. Now, he's going to get a rookie on the other side, so maybe Jayden Daniels is going to struggle with the blitzes next week. Maybe that's a big advantage for the Detroit Lions. But if Detroit cannot replicate the smoke and mirrors by which I think they were able to succeed against Minnesota, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a lot like the 49ers playing the Lions, except I think that Washington is playing better defense than the 49ers were down the stretch. The extra week of rest should help Detroit. I wonder if point spreads are out at this point yet. I'm really curious to see what the line on that game is going to be next week. But obviously Detroit has the benefit of rest. Obviously, Kansas City is going to have the benefit of rest against Houston next week, and we'll just have to see how that works out. Detroit is an 8.5-point favorite next week. And, it's a big number. It's a really big number for a Washington team that I think is going to be able to score some points in that game to be played in the Motor City. Kansas City, an 8-point favorite. Philadelphia, there's obviously no line yet. They're going to play the winner of Minnesota and the Rams. That is going to be the Sunday early game. And then there is the late game on Sunday. The Bills, as I predicted earlier today, 1-point favorites over the Ravens in what's going to be the MVP Bowl. Let's answer some questions. This has been fun. Ready to talk to all of you. It was cool to see Fred Warner on ESPN this morning. That was fun. Tommy Huxley picked everything right. Do I think the 49ers will adopt more RPOs next season? I don't know about RPOs, but I think they're going to adopt more play action. Play action and screen passes. They need to do more of that. Which team looked the most dominant this wild card weekend? Baltimore and Buffalo, and they play next week. Both teams looked really, really damn good. People want Jayden Daniels for MVP now. Looking for more questions. Come on, guys. A lot of people just picking who they're going to win tomorrow. I want questions. Who do I have tomorrow night? I think the Vikings are going to get them. Rams are playing some good football, but I think the Vikings, they're playing really high-level defense, and I don't think Sam Darnold is gonna play 2 bad games in a row, especially since the Rams, they seem They're very inexperienced still defensively. This is not the same Rams defense that guided them to a Super Bowl win a couple of years ago. No Aaron Donald, no Leonard Floyd, a lot of players gone from the Rams. They have totally rebuilt that side of the ball, and it just isn't a juggernaut. So they did a good job finding a way into the playoffs, but I don't think that they're better than the Vikings, and Minnesota also doesn't have to play a true road game. That game is now in Arizona. Mike thinks it might be the last game of Matthew Stafford's career. That's intriguing. Who are they gonna hand the keys to? Jimmy Garoppolo next year? NFC West? That'd be wild. 2 words, Sean McVay. Yeah, well, McVay's a really good play caller, I get it, but McVay also doesn't run the defense for the Rams. So, is the Rams defense going to be able to replicate what the Lions did against Sam Darnold? I think key. If they don't, then Sam could put up 30 points in this game, and then it's gonna be really hard going the other way, especially with the Brian Flores defense in Minnesota. There is an update that I do have for you regarding the 49ers, and we can finish it up with this update. San Francisco has made a special teams interview or a special teams coordinator. They obviously fired Brian Schneider. We already knew that, but they have now interviewed Jet Modkins for their special teams coordinator position. Modkins is the assistant special teams coordinator of the Detroit Lions. The Lions currently have the number 1 ranked special teams unit in all football. So, at the very least, even if they don't hire Jet Modkins, this is why it's so hard to get ahead as a team in the NFL because your coaches are not only gonna get poached by other teams, but also get interviewed by other teams. And when that happens, well, you could really explore what the Lions are doing in their building, what's been successful under Dan Campbell, what's been successful in that special teams room. The 49ers can collect some ideas that they can then apply even if they don't hire him. So why not interview the assistant special teams coach, number 1 special teams unit in the NFL? That is what the 49ers did. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We've been aboard here for about 30 minutes. Time for me to relax. We'll talk soon.